I'm 34. We'd been together 2 years and lived in Austin. Mary was building a following, posts about healing, forgiveness, small videos about moving on. She'd always been careful with words. I thought that was one of the reasons we fit. Then she posted the photo. It hit my phone like a punch. A single image, her in a bed, and 4 taped to her arm, a white sheet pulled up to her chest. The caption read, "Healing from betrayal. Some scars aren't visible." The post blew up fast. Likes, comments, the little flame of attention flaring across hours. People tagged me. Friends reached out in private messages. My mother called, voice wrapped in worry. The next day at work, someone pulled me aside and asked if I was okay. They all assumed the worst. I kept my mouth shut. That choice wasn't pride. It was shock, mixed with a sharp, wrong feeling I couldn't place. I knew the room in the photo. I'd seen it before in a friend's story. Hardwood floors, a plant in the corner, lighting that was too soft for a real hospital. It had always looked like a private suite, the kind of place marketed as a wellness recovery room, for vitamin drips, press kits. 2 days earlier, we'd argued about filming. She wanted to include our lives in a video about relationship growth. I told her I didn't want to be recorded anymore. I wanted parts of my life to stay private. She told me I was unsupportive. I told her she used us for content. We cooled off. I thought that was the end of it. The photo changed everything. Mary went live from that room, speaking about trust and boundaries and how betrayal breaks you open. Her follower count jumped, her messages filled with sympathy. I watched strangers fill in the blanks she left vague. I watched a version of our life take shape online, one that painted me as cold and unfaithful while her pain was magnified into a story. It felt wrong, but I still didn't push back in public. I wanted to understand first. So I started to look closer. Small details are telling when you start to pay attention. The 4 bag in the corner looked decorative. The furniture was lighter than hospital steel. The window had a set of sheer curtains I recognized from a promotional post a local wellness clinic used last summer. I dug through saved posts and old stories the way someone pieces together a memory. Patterns emerged. I called the clinic the next day. I didn't give my real name. I asked about their recovery rooms like any curious stranger might. The receptionist answered like she'd heard the script before. They offered vitamin drips, hydration appointments, and room rentals for shoots. I swallowed hard at the words, room rentals for shoots. She confirmed what I had begun to suspect. Mary hadn't been admitted for treatment. She'd rented a room for photography. No overnight stay. No records of treatment. It felt like someone had built a scene and dressed it up as a life event. I took screenshots, timestamps, the clinic's website, and the post itself. I saved messages I remembered seeing in her old conversations, a comment about how the 4 shots looked so real. I didn't post any of it. I didn't want to act on anger. I wanted to know why she would do it. That night, she sat on the couch scrolling through comments like someone watching a show. She looked pleased. The glow of the phone made her face familiar and strange at the same time. I asked about recovery in a steady voice. She said she was getting better. She said she still had work to do on herself. She also said the right lines for her audience. When she spoke, there was a performance tucked into the words. It wasn't cruel in the moment. It was simple, like someone following a script that happened to make strangers care. I left the conversation with a weight in my chest that wasn't just about being hurt. It was about feeling misrepresented. I decided then to stay quiet a little longer. Not out of fear, but because I wanted the facts to line up before I broke the quiet. The first part of the story ended with me sitting at the kitchen table, light from the laptop and the clinic screenshots open, trying to steady myself for what came next. The next morning, the house felt strangely calm. Mary had left early for what she called a content day, meaning she'd be out shooting photos or meeting brand reps. I sat in the quiet, staring at the cup of coffee that had gone cold before I even tasted it. Everything about the past few days felt off balance. The sympathy messages, the fake hospital photo, the surge of her followers. The world online had shifted against me, and she was at the center of it, smiling for her audience. I opened my laptop again and went back to the clinic's website. There it was, wellness lounge, luxury IV therapy, skincare, and content spaces. I scrolled until I saw the same room from her photo, available for hourly rentals. My chest tightened, not in anger, just disbelief. The pieces weren't falling apart anymore. They were clicking into place. Still, I wanted something undeniable. So I called the clinic again. "Hi," I said, keeping my tone light. "I saw one of your recovery rooms on social media and wanted to ask if you take new patients." The woman on the phone sounded cheerful. "Oh, we're not a medical facility," she said. "We do wellness treatments, vitamin drips, hydration therapy, skin rejuvenation, but no hospital care." I hesitated, then asked, "Do you ever let people take photos there?" She laughed softly. "All the time. Actually, an influencer rented a room last week for pictures. No treatment, just the shot. It's kind of common now. I thanked her and hung up. That one word, rented, played in my head over and over. She'd rented a hospital look and built a betrayal. And now, half the internet believed her. I sat there, staring at my phone, watching the likes on her post rise every few seconds. I could have posted the truth right then, screenshots, proof, everything. But I didn't. I wanted to see how far she'd take it. How much of her own fiction she'd start to believe. When she came home that evening, the smell of lavender candles filled the room. She was curled up on the couch, scrolling through her comments with a small, peaceful expression. For a moment, she looked happy, not guilty, not nervous, just satisfied. I leaned on the doorway and said quietly, "So, how's recovery going?" She glanced up, caught off guard for a second, then smiled like she'd practiced it. "Physically better," she said, setting her phone aside. "Emotionally still healing." I nodded slowly. "Healing from what? The 4-drip or the story you made up?" Her eyes darted away, and I saw the first flicker of panic. Then came the defensiveness. "Don't twist this," she said. "People relate to my story. It's helping them." "Your story?" I asked. "You mean our story? The one you turned into a performance?" She stood up, crossing her arms. "You've never supported my work. You don't get it. This isn't lying. It's about sharing emotions people connect to." I let out a quiet breath. "You turned me into the villain, Sam. You made people think I betrayed you. That's not a connection. That's manipulation." She didn't deny it. She just shrugged and said, "It's working." That line hit harder than I expected. "It's working." The phrase echoed through the room like something hollow and mechanical. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. There was no point. Her focus wasn't on truth. It was on the numbers rising beside her name. Every tearful caption, every vague post about pain, every quote about trust and light. It was content, and I had unknowingly become the antagonist in her series. I walked to the bedroom, shut the door, and sat in the dark for a while. The glow from my phone screen showed her new story notification, a short clip of her sipping tea, captioned, "Learning to find peace, one day at a time." The comments poured in. "You're so strong." Each one made my silence feel heavier, but necessary. That night, I made a folder on my laptop labeled proof. I saved the clinic call log, screenshots of her posts, and a few messages I'd found between her and her friend about the photo shoot. One of them read, "These 4 shots look crazy real, LOL." I stared at that line for a long time. She hadn't just faked pain. She'd planned it, rehearsed it, monetized it. When I closed the laptop, the house was silent again. She was asleep in the other room, and I realized something I hadn't before. This wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. This was a choice, a calculated one. And I knew then that exposing it wouldn't just clear my name. It would dismantle everything she'd built. But I also knew she'd made that choice, not me. And soon, she'd have to face what it cost. I didn't sleep much after that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that fake 4 in her arm and the comment section cheering her on. She slept beside me, calm, unaware that I'd already uncovered everything. I could have confronted her again, but what was the point? She wasn't listening anymore. It wasn't about us. It was about image. So I stopped arguing, stopped reacting. I decided to do what she wouldn't expect. I went quiet. At first, she seemed relieved. She probably thought I'd given up, that I was too ashamed to defend myself. She went about her days filming recovery updates, posting quotes about forgiveness and growth. Her voice always had that soft, soothing tone she used when she wanted to sound wise. "Some wounds take longer to close," she said in one of her reels, eyes downcast. It had over 100,000 views. And every one of those people thought I was the reason she was hurting. I started watching her like an outsider. She'd wake up, scroll through her comments, smile a little at the support, then spend hours writing captions that made her sound like she'd survived something tragic. Her content wasn't about healing. It was about performing healing. It got worse when she launched her new course, Healing After Deception, $49 for the first 100 signups. I couldn't believe it. She was selling the story. My name wasn't in it, but it didn't need to be. Every detail pointed to me. By then, the pity messages had slowed down, replaced by quiet judgment. Friends stopped calling. Even a few people I'd known for years had pulled away. It was like walking through a crowd of people whispering your name, but refusing to meet your eyes. I kept my head down, went to work, came home, pretended not to notice the glow of her phone screen or the occasional laughter when she read something flattering. Then one night, my coworker sent me a video. "Man," he wrote, "is this about you?" I opened it, and my stomach turned. It was Mary, sitting in her car with puffy eyes, saying, "Sometimes, people pretend to love you just to use your kindness. But the truth always comes out." The comments section was brutal. "Men like him make me sick. She deserves better. Karma will handle him." For the first time in weeks, I felt something sharp, Anger, not at her exactly, but at how easily people believed whatever looked emotional. My silence wasn't protecting peace anymore. It was protecting a fraud. So I opened that proof folder I'd made. Inside were screenshots of her post, the clinic's email confirming she was never a patient, and the message she'd sent her best friend. These 4 shots looked so real, lol. It was all there. The pieces of a lie she'd crafted and sold as truth. But I didn't post anything yet. I took my time. I wanted my words to be calm, not reactive. She was building her story on emotion. I'd counter it with facts. Over the next few days, she kept pushing her healing journey. Every post was perfectly curated, soft lighting, sad music, captions like, "It's not about who broke you, but what you build after." Her followers flooded her comments with hearts and prayers. Sponsors started noticing her. She'd become a symbol of resilience, and I was the ghost she'd used to get there. Watching that unfold hurt more than the betrayal itself. Because this wasn't about cheating or heartbreak, it was about identity. She'd rewritten mine without my permission. So I planned my next step quietly. I gathered digital timestamps, downloaded videos, and took screenshots of her followers praising her courage. I wanted a complete timeline, every detail accurate, undeniable. She noticed my quiet after a while. One night, she said, "You seem distant." I looked at her and said, "Just tired." It was the truth in more ways than one. Because I was done trying to make her understand. I wasn't going to argue, shout, or beg her to tell the truth. I was going to let her believe she'd won. For now. Because when the truth came out, it wouldn't need to scream. It would speak for itself, loud, clean, and impossible to twist. And deep down, I think she knew it was coming. She just didn't know when. When I finally decided to speak, I didn't do it in anger. I sat at my desk one night, phone beside me, the quiet hum of the fridge in the background. The house felt hollow, like it was holding its breath. Mary was asleep in the other room. I opened a blank post and started typing slowly, not to destroy her, not even to get even. I just wanted to stop being a character in someone else's story. I've been accused of betrayal that never happened. Out of respect for privacy, I stayed silent. But when silence turns into enabling, truth becomes necessary. I paused, reading the words out loud. Calm, clear, not emotional. Then I added. The photo in question was taken at a rented IV therapy spa. Mary was never admitted or treated. The clinic confirmed this in writing. The Healing from Betrayal post was staged for engagement. I wish her peace, but I will not carry the weight of a lie. That was it. No insults. No bitterness. Just the facts. I attached screenshots. The clinic's message confirming she'd never been treated. Her own text saying the 4 shots looked so real. And the photo timestamps that matched the spa's rental schedule. I hit post. Then I turned off my phone and went outside. I sat on the porch for a while, staring into the dark. There was nothing dramatic about it. No rush of victory. Just a quiet exhale. When I finally checked my phone an hour later, it was exploding. Notifications flooded in. Comments, shares, messages. People had started reposting it on their own pages. 2 hours later, it hit 40,000 shares. I watched her profile from a distance. The comment section under her healing post turned chaotic. Fans demanded answers. A few still defended her, saying I was twisting the story. But the tide was turning. Then it happened. The thing that ended the debate for good. The clinic's official Instagram commented under my post. We confirm Ms. Mary L. rented a room for photography purposes. No for or treatment was administered. That single line silenced everything. Within hours, influencer gossip pages picked it up. Self-love coach exposed for faking hospital photos. Hashtag IVGate started trending. Her brand began collapsing overnight. Sponsors vanished. Her comments filled with disappointment instead of praise. The same people who once called her strong, now called her manipulative. The next day, she deleted her healing course link. 2 days later, one of her sponsors, a wellness tea company, publicly stated they were cutting ties due to misrepresentation concerns. I didn't post anything else. I didn't argue with strangers or celebrate. I just watched the truth do its work. On the 3rd night, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, she was standing there. No makeup, eyes red, face pale. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, but like the confidence she carried online had drained out of her. "You ruined me," she said, her voice thin and tired. I stood in the doorway, not angry, just still. "I didn't ruin you," I said. "You did." Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry yet. She looked past me, like she couldn't stand the sight of herself reflected in my calm. "You could have talked to me before posting that," she said quietly. "I did talk to you," I replied. "You told me it was working." The silence that followed felt heavier than shouting ever could. She looked at me for a long time, as if she wanted to find something. Regret, forgiveness, maybe the old version of us. But it wasn't there anymore. She turned to leave, but stopped halfway down the steps. You don't know what it's like, she whispered. When the numbers stop growing, when people stop caring. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. After she left, I sat on the porch again, watching her car pull away. The night was quiet, and for the first time in weeks, so was my mind. The truth had finally spoken for itself, and it was louder than any lie she'd ever told. The next morning, the house felt empty. Her things were gone. Clothes, camera, ring light, even the stack of journals she'd used for content ideas. Only a faint trace of her perfume lingered in the air. I stood in the doorway for a long time, not because I missed her, but because I couldn't believe how far she'd gone for attention. Later that day, she texted me for the first time since showing up at my door. You think I wanted this to happen? I just needed people to care again. My engagement was dying. The hospital photo, it got attention. I stared at the messages. No apology, no accountability, just a confession wrapped in justification. I typed a reply, then deleted it. There was no point in arguing anymore. She didn't need a fight. She needed to face what she'd built. Over the next few days, the internet did what it always does. It tore apart the story it once worshipped. Screenshots circulated everywhere. Her followers dropped by tens of thousands. Some of her former brand partners issued quiet statements distancing themselves from her. One influencer even called her the reason people stopped trusting creators. By the end of the week, her so-called healing brand had completely unraveled. Someone had even filed a complaint against her online course, calling it fraudulent. Whether it was a former customer or a competitor, I never found out, but it didn't matter. The lie had collapsed on its own weight. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post anything more. Nothing was satisfying about watching someone self-destruct. Even someone who dragged your name through mud to build her image. One evening, a mutual friend called. He told me she'd left Austin and gone back to her hometown in Oregon. She'd archived most of her posts, deleted her course, and changed her bio too, taking time to find real peace. For the first time, I hoped she meant it. I didn't hate her. I wasn't proud either. I just felt done. There's a strange peace that comes after a storm when you realize you don't have to fix what someone else broke. I thought about posting something reflective, maybe a line about truth or forgiveness, but decided against it. The internet didn't need another quote. It needed fewer people pretending to have all the answers. In the weeks that followed, the story faded. New drama took over. Hashtags changed. Her name slipped quietly out of people's feeds. But the lesson stayed with me. When you let lies go unchallenged, they start to define you. Silence isn't always strength. Sometimes it's surrender. I learned that the truth doesn't need to scream. It doesn't need to trend. It just needs to exist, plainly and without emotion. And when it does, it has a way of cutting through every performance, every caption, every filter. That's what finally broke her. Not my anger, not revenge, but reality itself. A friend once told me, the truth always outlasts the noise. I never understood that until now. The lies made her viral, but the truth made her disappear. I didn't destroy her career. I just turned on the lights. And when the lights came on, there was nothing left to hide behind. A month later, I saw one last post from her. Just a photo of a lake, no caption, no hashtags, no filters, no pity quotes. For the first time, it looked real. I didn't like it or comment. I just stared for a second, then closed the app. Because in the end, this was never about winning. It was about getting my name back, and remembering that sometimes, the calmest response to being lied about isn't revenge. It's true, quiet, undeniable truth. And that's the kind of silence I can live with. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.